peace, God's mercy, and God's blessings on you, woke writers. Welcome to today's episode of the Strange Ink Show. Before we delve in, woke writer, what do I mean by that? When I say the term woke, I don't mean politically or in terms of activism. What I mean is woke as in spiritually woke. It means awakened. It means to be whole, to be authentic, to be full, to be complete as we can be anyway in this life, God willing. So it encompasses every part of us, our body, soul, mind, and that does include activism as well, and really standing up for justice. That just falls into the umbrella of what I mean when I'm talking about woke. So that is why I welcome you here today as woke writers, because I do believe that the people who are drawn to these kind of episodes and this organization are the kind of people who are striving to be purposeful and live consciously and live fully as possible through our writing and through our lives and everything that we do. So I want to welcome you again to today's episode, which is going to be all about actually a certain type of writing. So I really hope you enjoy it, and Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So I'll begin with a little bit of, I guess, a place that we can be in to benefit most from this kind of writing. And I want to talk about life. I talked about seasons in life in a previous episode, and in this episode it's talking about a specific season in our life where things are a little bit more difficult than what we are used to. It's a time which is truly testing. It's a time where we feel a little bit unsteady and uneasy just in how we are as people, in our sense of self. So many things feel like as if they are unsure, and one of them things is also our boundaries. So it's a kind of place that we can be in sometimes, and it's a place of constriction. It's a place of not from expansion, but a place where you feel like as if there's like a tightening around you, and you're not really sure what happened. Maybe you feel like it came out of the blue, but these are all symptoms that I'm sharing with you. And what happens is just a couple more things you feel is like you feel more vulnerable, you're more tired, energetically you get more depleted, exhausted, especially when you're around people, more especially if you are an introvert, and I'm sure this applies to extroverts as well. But what happens is when we're in this place, the last thing that we want to do is go back to our novel most of the time, or our manuscript, or whatever it is that we're working on, because we're not feeling inspired right now, right? So and these places are very real, because that is the nature of life. We go through these seasons. We go through a season of fullness, right? Like summer, spring, going into that fullness. Then we go through this season of reflection and almost like a hibernation, like the fall and the winter, and subhanallah, God made us so perfectly that everything is the way it's supposed to be. We're living in a cycle, right? And we go through cycles as well, especially as women. And we talked about that in the seasons of harnessing our seasons as women in a previous episode. So this specific cycle is one which is a little bit more intense. You feel like you're not even really sure if all the work that you've done on yourself, all of the healing that you've been working toward, if it even has made a difference, because your triggers are just like coming up again and again and again, and you're thinking, has any of the knowledge that I've learned or the action that I've done made a difference? Because I feel like I'm back to step one and I'm feeling so uneasy in myself. And most of the time this can be something like a feeling that is brought on by, and just before I go into why this happens, I just want to say that to heal, and this episode is all about healing, and I'm going to get to that kind of writing, but to heal, it's not something that can happen in a few weeks or even a few months or even a year or two. It's a process which keeps happening, and it happens and it happens and it has to keep happening, because sometimes the wounds are so deep that we can't even remember them happening. So We just have to keep working on ourselves, and I don't think we will ever truly be whole. That's why I said we're as whole as we can be in this life, but I don't think we can ever be whole until we reach heaven. And that is when every part of us, the grief and all of the negativity, will be gone. Those are the emotions that will be leaving us, the bad ones, right? So in this life, however, we're constantly going through these trials. That is the nature of life, and a lot of the times we think that we've kind of reached a level of healing. We might feel like, okay, I've dealt with that thing, and then it comes back again, and then you feel again like, okay, I'm literally feel like I'm back to step one, which is the feeling I was talking about. You feel more vulnerable, your boundaries are just really bad at that time. You're depleted just being around people, and you're beginning to think like, what, is there something wrong with me? Am I going through something like really, really, really serious right now? And what happens is, the thing which brings this feeling, or this state, is really a state, it's a state of being, is when most of the time it could be from something that maybe someone has done to us, like a toxic person, that you've been around a certain person, and they've just been kind of like taking from your sense of self, and you finally realize it, and then you're like, okay, wow, is this happening? And then you look at yourself one day and you're like, what happened to me? Right? And then another time, you might get into this state because of something that we have done with our own hands, something that has been a kind of a betrayal of the self in some way, right? But something which might be intentional, like something that we did something that went against our best self, right? So now we feel like we don't really have that sense of self anymore. So there are so many reasons why we can get into this state. But ultimately, this place that we are in, before I go on to what I truly believe that it is before, this place that we are in is it really is a lesson, right? It's a place that gives us the opportunity to grow from this experience, because it all really comes down to perspective. The nature of this life is that no matter how much work we do on ourselves, we will keep trying to need to work on ourselves a little bit more, and we're going to be experiencing things in life. It gets harder and it gets harder, and that is just the nature of life. It will never get so easy. Like my sister Kashmir Miriam, she said, with every new level there is a new devil. And I think Shakespeare said something similar to that. So it's so true. It's the test will never end, right? So it's just about approaching it from a different perspective. And when we come into this place of unease, this lack of self that we've worked so hard to build, it's important to approach it with a place of growth, right? I'm not going to say growth mindset. I know that term is used so often, but it's a place, and it's an amazing term. But I'm talking about growth. It's good to have that mindset of growth, but also growth in every part of us, right? Maybe there's a huge lesson that we need to learn, and this experience is telling us that it's time to learn it. Allahu alam why we've maybe come on a stage that we're ready to learn it, all the reasons. But the thing is, when we are in this time, the last thing that we want to do is write. Which is why it is so important as writers to understand that we don't always have to be working on the same manuscript all the time. We don't have to work on a project every single time until we see it till the end. We can give it a pause, and then we can return when we are in a mental space that we're able to, and we can do it in a way of excellence, right? So this time is the best time to do a special kind of writing, and that writing is journaling, right? So, and I want to recommend an amazing book by my sister Kashmir Miriam, who actually published with Strange Ink with this book, and it's called The Muslim Woman's Journal. I will be making sure that I add a link to wherever you can get that. It's an amazing book, mashallah, and it really makes you feel and look more introspectively in a place where you begin to see yourself, right? You reflect and things. So, and another reason, and one of the most difficult times that we went through as a global population, as a member of the global community, was the pandemic. And that is why we as Strange Ink did the project, which was journaling. We asked sisters from all around the world to journal and write their experiences through pandemic, because it was just the best way to get everything down on paper and kind of like in the current society preserve that message in a way which people can keep reading after centuries, inshallah. You know, it was a historic project, but the mode of writing that we chose to do was journaling, and that was for a reason, you know. So I really, really hope that this episode helped you in just understanding that the experience that you're going through is very real, and not to lose hope. And there is a reason behind it. There is a reason behind everything. And sometimes we can be in this place because of some, you know, experience that we've had externally, or something we've done, or you know, been through internally as well. There's so many reasons, but the best way to really get down to what you are going through and continue writing, the exercise of writing, and to really unpeel these layers that have grown on the self, is through journaling. So I would highly recommend, like I said, Kashmir Miriam's book, The Muslim Women's Journal, which really helps us to look deeper as well. So I hope this episode helped. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. And just before I leave, I just want to us all to put our hands on our hearts and say, my voice has power. My voice has power. Thank you for being here with me today. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody.